Hi, I'm Phil, and you're watching The Joy of Electronics. In this video, I'm going to start the process of building another guitar effects pedal. Last time I did a Big Muff Pi clone. This time I'm going to do something to go in front of the Big Muff Pi clone, and that would be an orange squeezer compressor on Stripboard. So I don't have access to a color printer at the moment, so we have a black and white Stripboard layout here. And we're going to start off by cutting the tracks in these locations here. And I've got a Stripboard here. You can see we have bus lines running across in one direction. Strange little hole down here. I'm not sure what that is, just a defect or whatnot. So we have to make sure we have at least 18 by 13, and the 18 is along the bus. So you can see I have 1 to 34, so that's fine, and the other side's fine too. So we have enough space on this board. Now, the last one I did was this is the orientation that matches up with the layout of the cuts, because you want to be mounting the components on this side and then soldering them on this side. But I like to make the cuts when I'm looking at the traces. Also, if I'm using a drill, I want to drill into the traces so it's a cleaner cut than if I was drilling from here, which actually pushes the traces up a bit. So what I've done this time is I've printed out the layout flipped horizontally, so I will be able to mark it here and drill from this side to make it a bit easier, and a bit easier to lay out, and a bit easier for me to drill at least. So I'll just go ahead and mark the cuts with Sharpie here. So I'm going to leave some space. Actually, no. Am I going to leave some space? Do I need space? Where are the... You only need space on one side, so I'm only going to leave space on one side. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. There's a cut, and then there's a little triangle that cuts around there. So there's those 3. Let me just make sure. 1, 2, and then a cut, and then we have 3 above. Yeah, so that's fine. So then we want to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the 6th. We'll mark that. I like doing this relative to the last ones I've done. Makes it a bit easier for me, at least. We want to go down 1, 2, and over 1. 1, 2, over 1, and then we have 2 here, and 1 here, and then we want to skip 1 and here, and then if we want to get this one, we got to go down 1 and over. So down 1, 2, 3, and then the next one there. And then we want to go over 1 and down 3, 2, 3, and then it's the next one, I think. So there. Quite a few on this. So we've got this one, and then we want to go diagonal 1 from there. And then we want to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's a 6, and it should have 2 on top. So there we go. I've marked the positions. I've got a drill with a 3/32 bit. I'm just going to drill these out. Now I can drill from the side where I can see the traces, and I can drill into the traces, which means it's going to be a bit cleaner than if I was pushing against the traces from beneath. I mean, normally you'd want to drill onto a hard surface, but the drill would end up hitting the camera, and I couldn't find the block of wood I usually use for that, so we're just going to do it holding the circuit board here. It's no big deal. You probably want to double check this before you drill, but I'm doing this kind of fast, so I didn't, and we'll just hope that it's right. Okay, we got some jaggies, which I can just scrape off with an X-Acto knife. It's not too many, thankfully. Worked pretty good. I think I got them all. In the past, I've been doing just single pedals, but I realized, you know, you can doing 2 at a time goes pretty quick. So I think I'll do 2 of these at the same time. And one of the advantages of Stripboard when you're doing it at the same time is you really only have to do this, you know, the layout once, and then you can just stack these and drill through. So let me count here. There's supposed to be 12. It doesn't quite look like 12 at first glance, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 12. So what I can do is I can grab another one of these boards, the same size. I think I have enough components to do this twice. And I'll just layer it on top like so. And we'll go and make sure this is lined up really well so that you make sure that you're only cutting the traces you have to. Again, you could have a jig to hold these in place. Use a drill press, be drilling down. You know, generally not like I'm doing it with one hand, holding the strip board in the other hand with the drill just free floating, but to be honest, and hopefully I won't screw up right after I say this, but to be honest, this isn't that difficult. As long as you're diligent about holding it steady. You're gonna do all right, although I got some debris in between. We'll check out how this second circuit board worked. Looks pretty good. Everything seems to be on the bus lines where they should be, and no crossover. I mean, even if they nick a bus line to the side, that's not a big deal. Trying to think, you know, this is the second stripboard video I'm doing. I'm trying to think of what I could do different that might improve the efficiency of the process. So I might try laying things out and lay all the components out before soldering, and then solder them all at once. Last time I kind of went through the resistors and the capacitors and, you know, that sort of thing, and then soldered them along the way. This time I might, we'll see. We'll see if I can do something different to speed the process up. But there we go. We got 2 perf boards. Oh, I guess I'm not laying out next. I'll be doing the links, these black lines or black jumpers to connect some of the buses. So at this point, you probably want to tear this reversed printout up if you did this, because you don't want to be looking at this any longer. It's only for drilling the holes from the opposite side. So now I am gonna scrap that, and I'll see about verifying the cuts from this side. That looks like I did the flips correctly, thankfully. So when I flip it, it looks like we got everything in the right position. But we'll see along the way. Okay, let's get to doing these links. So I'll put that up there for now. I find one of these really handy for holding circuit boards. They're inexpensive. I will put a link in the description. They're adjustable. Just slide that out. Pop your circuit board in a little further. Spring loaded, keeps everything in place. Tighten it up, and we're good to go. Doesn't have to be super tight for this particular application. Move that down a bit so it's centered. Okay, so now, as you can see here, we've got 6 links to cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to need our trusty flush cutters, our wire strippers, and our soldering iron. I think that's probably it. Maybe our needle nose. All great tools to have around. And we're going to need some black hookup wire. So I'll grab some of that to start. And let's see what we got. Okay, so the first one goes over our first cut. And it starts at the top and then goes 1, 2, 3 past our first cut. So starts at the top. Oh, I fell out a bit there. So one of the things you want to do, I realized, is when you're using stripboard and you want to bend a lead so that it stays in, you want to bend it along the bus lines. The natural inclination sometimes is to bend it forward or back to get it to stay in, but on stripboard you don't want to cross over bus lines, so you want to bend it to the side if you can. That way when you solder, you're soldering it along the bus line, and you're less likely to bridge bus lines. So let's get back to it. 1, 2, 3 under. So 1, 2, 3 means about there is where we have to bend and strip. So we'll snip that. And you know what? I'm going to cut another one of those about the same size for our second pedal. So now I see where I bent it a little bit, so that's where I'm going to strip, and hopefully that is the right distance for this link. So start at the top and then 1, 2, 3 past the first cut. A little bit tight, but that's okay. I'll just bend the side the other way, and there we go. That holds in place nicely. So let's double check. Starting at the top, crossing over the first cut, and then 1, 2, 3 buses. 1, 2, 3 buses. So there we go. I'll just quickly solder that in, so now you can see that I'll be soldering along the bus line. rather than across bus lines. I'll still trim the excess, but you know, in some cases you don't have to, but we'll do that. So there we go. There's our first jumper. Okay, that bottom one kind of raised a bit when I turned it over, so I'm just going to flip this again, reflow it, and push it through a bit more. And get the solder to sit down. Retrim. You can do that type of adjustment, no problem. Just make sure that you reflow the solder enough that it's gonna make the connection. It's gonna melt with the wire again, and not just have the wire kind of sitting in what's called a cold solder joint. All right, let's go on to our second one here. Where did I put that extra length for the next pedal? I don't know. Hopefully it'll turn up. Okay, strip that, bend it to hook in, and this one starts 2 above the next, not the next one, but 1, 2, 3, yeah, 2 above this one here, and goes to 1 below. So 2 above, and goes to 1 below, which is there. So just bend that slightly, we'll snip it, we'll make another of the same length, and actually I can see there's one more that's this length, so we'll actually make 2 more of that same length. This might be a bit longer, but it's fine. It will do. There's the other one. Actually, I need, no, that's fine. So 2 there, and we have 2 here. All right. So this is a pretty short one. If I look for the bend and strip it. Now where were we? We were 2 above and 1 below. So 2 above that and 1 below. That one can stand to be a little bit shorter. That's fine. So since the next one's the same length, we'll go ahead and do that one. I think I'm going to have a lot of excess wire here, but that's fine. I can trim it off. So when you're using these types of wire strippers to bend wire, I find that this orientation creates a cleaner bend than if you were to do it this orientation. I think you can get tighter to the wire there. So the next one is 1 above this one, right in the center, to 2 below. So 2 below is there. Let's give that a little bend. Yeah, we definitely have too much wire here. So trim that off, strip it, bend it, and 1 above to 2 below. Here we go. A lot of excess wire here. So you know what? I'm going to trim this before I solder. Just so that I have to deal with a bit less. Sometimes the solder will get around the excess wire, making it difficult to trim after the fact. So if you really have an amount that you can still hold it in place after you trim, then you should go ahead and trim before you solder. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and wire up the remaining of this pedal's tracks and the other pedal's tracks, and I'll get back when I'm done. Okay, we've got both strip boards cut and linked, so it'd be a good idea at this point to double check the track jumpers or links, that they're in line with the layout, and then check to see that you haven't bridged any bus lines with the solder. Just noticed one of these is a bit long, and I also just noticed that I did not solder one, so there you go. It's good to check. I'll just pop this in one more time. You know, this is a risk that you run when you populate everything and then solder it all at the same time. It's easy to lose track of a lead here or there, whereas if you're populating one and then soldering it, you're generally not going to miss anything because you know exactly the number that you have to solder and you're more focused on that part. So the other thing you can do is run an X-Acto knife between the bus lines. If it looks like you've bridged any, you'll feel little bumps of the solder if there is any bridging, and obviously you could test them with a multimeter. So I think I'll end this video as a part, and in the next part we'll move on to populating the components for this Stripboard orange squeezer by Ivayar from tagboardeffects.blogspot.com. So this has been The Joy of Electronics. I'm Phil, and we'll see you next time.